I think the people that ride Harleys are not happy with Harley-Davidson, and I wouldn't be either. So Harley-Davidson is using that as an excuse, and I don't like that because I've been very good to Harley-Davidson.
Donald Trump just destroyed Harley-Davidson after they shifted production overseas. He called it a betrayal, while Harley insisted it was simply business math. Now, the brand's reputation is tanking, younger buyers are bailing, and rivals are eating their lunch. And this fight has turned into a full-blown cultural war. Well, you know how there are some brands that just feel untouchable? Like, no matter what happens, they're so embedded in culture that you assume nothing can shake them? Harley-Davidson used to be that brand. Born in 1903, these guys built more than motorcycles. They built a whole identity. Toughness, independence, that Made in America stamp that made you feel like you were riding with an American flag flapping behind you, even if you were just going to the grocery store. It was more than chrome and leather. It was freedom on two wheels. And then, well, let's just say Donald Trump decided Harley needed a wake-up call. And by wake-up call, I mean a full-on social media flamethrower. In tweets and speeches, he basically accused Harley of stabbing its loyal riders in the back, ditching their heritage for some woke agenda, and packing their bags for overseas manufacturing. You could almost hear the collective gasp from guys polishing their bikes in the driveway. Because here's the thing. For decades, Harley wasn't just selling motorcycles. They were selling patriotism. That's what made this whole thing sting for their fans. Suddenly, the company that sold you the American dream on two wheels was getting called out for turning its back on that dream. And Trump's words didn't just come out of nowhere, they hit a nerve with Harley's longtime fan base. These were people who had already been feeling like the brand was drifting, changing priorities, going all corporate. Hearing it echoed by a former president? Yeah, that poured gasoline on the fire. And then we get to the real kicker, the Thailand situation. Oh yes, the Thailand factory. Harley started building this shiny new assembly plant there 2 years before Trump's trade war went nuclear. Their reasoning? To better serve global markets. Build closer to the customers overseas so they don't get hit with extra costs. In the boardroom, that sounds smart. In the court of public opinion, that sounds like, hey America, thanks for the memories, but the weather's nicer over here. Trump, never one to underplay a reaction, dropped the kind of warning that could make a CEO choke on his morning coffee. If they move, it will be the beginning of the end. Oh, and he added they'd be taxed like never before if those Thailand-made bikes rolled back into the US. Harsh? Yes. Out of character for him? Absolutely not. Thing is, this wasn't Harley's first overseas adventure. They already had plants in Brazil and India to handle international sales. But somehow, this Thailand move hit differently. Maybe it was the timing. Maybe it was the trade war tension. Or maybe it was just the fact that while they were cutting ribbons overseas, they were also shutting down their Kansas City, Missouri facility. And yes, they expanded the York, Pennsylvania plant. But try telling a Kansas City worker that it's all good because some other state's plant is doing better. Doesn't quite land the same. Harley's official line was that tariffs from Trump's trade war were making US production too expensive for certain markets. In other words, we had no choice. But to the average Harley loyalist, it just sounded like corporate speak for, we chose the cheaper option, sorry not sorry. Now, here's where it gets messy. Was this betrayal or just business? Trump wanted you to think it was a flat-out moral betrayal. Like Harley had taken the Made in America patch off its leather jacket and stitched on made wherever it's cheapest. Harley, on the other hand, insisted this was just math. Global pricing, profit margins, market access, all the stuff shareholders care about. The stock market, however, didn't exactly throw them a victory parade. Shares dipped as investors started questioning whether Harley could keep both profits and loyalty intact. And then there were the jobs. Let's not forget that a lot of Harley's workforce, especially those losing their positions in Kansas City, were Trump supporters. The optics of them watching their jobs shipped overseas, while the president himself is calling the company out? That's the kind of PR nightmare you can't fix with a new ad campaign. It's also ironic because in the 1980s, Harley was basically rescued by import tariffs on Japanese bikes. That protectionist policy gave them breathing room to rebuild and survive. Fast forward to now, and the same company is dodging US tariffs by building abroad. You couldn't script a more awkward contrast. The final punch to the gut for some fans was the feeling that Harley had sold out. It wasn't just about where the bikes were made. It was about the erosion of a brand identity that people had invested in for decades. When your brand is built on Americana, every foreign move feels like chipping away at the foundation. And while all this drama is happening, Harley is also getting squeezed in the market itself. Indian Motorcycles, Yamaha, Honda. These brands are coming in hot with bikes that are more technologically advanced, better priced, and in some cases, just plain cooler for younger riders. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. The next generation of riders isn't exactly lining up for big, heavy cruisers. They're eyeing sport bikes, adventure models, and yes, even electric rides. Harley's been late to the party on all of that. Sure, they've made the Livewire electric bike, but let's be honest, it hasn't exactly set the world on fire. Traditional Harley buyers look at it and go, "That's not a Harley." While younger buyers look at the price tag and go, "That's not for me." And the risk doesn't stop there. Expanding into foreign markets is tricky enough without alienating your base at home. Every ad campaign, every product launch has to walk the tightrope of attracting new customers without making old ones feel abandoned. And right now, that rope looks frayed. Even their marketing seems to be drifting away from the heritage branding that used to make Harley stand out. The gritty, rebellious vibe is giving way to something more generic. And when you lose your unique voice in a crowded market, good luck getting it back. We've got a brand with over a century of history, a president calling them out for betrayal, factories popping up overseas while US plants close, stock prices taking hits, loyal fans feeling sold out, rivals eating their lunch, younger buyers looking elsewhere, and electric experiments that aren't catching fire. Yeah, not exactly the picture of stability. So, how does Harley climb out of this mess without looking like they just slapped a Band-Aid on a bullet wound? Step 1, get serious about electric innovation. And I don't mean tossing out one expensive electric model like the Livewire and then acting shocked when no one's lining up around the block. If Harley wants to merge that signature rumbling, badass image with modern EV expectations, they've got to do more than just meet the bare minimum. Battery life needs to be longer. Performance has to feel like a Harley, not a glorified scooter. And the range has to be something that doesn't make riders plan their routes around charging stations like they're hunting for Pokemon. Imagine if Harley could make an electric bike that feels like their classic cruisers, but launches faster than a Tesla. That's the kind of mic drop they need. But it can't stop at tech upgrades. Harley has to recommit to US labor in a way that makes people believe in the Made in America badge again. That means more than just a token assembly line here and there while the bulk of the work happens overseas. They've got to put their money where their mouth is. More domestic production, more investment in skilled American craftsmanship, and a marketing push that makes "Built in the USA" feel like a rallying cry instead of a nostalgia sticker. When someone buys a Harley, they should feel like they're not just getting a bike, they're getting a piece of America's best work. And right now, that's not the vibe they're selling. Then there's the lifestyle factor. Harley dealerships shouldn't just be showrooms where you awkwardly sip burnt coffee while a salesman hovers. These places need to feel like full-on rider sanctuaries. Think big events, exclusive merch drops, workshops, meetups, maybe even track days for testing new models. Make the dealership the heartbeat of the community, not just a transactional pit stop. If you can get people to come in when they're not buying a bike, you're building loyalty that goes beyond a sales receipt. Of course, Harley's not going to survive if they only look inward. Balanced global reach is key. Sell to Asia, Europe, and emerging markets. Sure, but don't strip away the American DNA in the process. The trick is to expand without turning into a generic international motorcycle brand that could be based anywhere. You want people in Tokyo, Berlin, and Sao Paulo to think, yeah, that's American muscle on two wheels, not, oh, another corporate motorcycle company. Global reach without brand dilution is hard, but Harley doesn't really have a choice. The domestic market alone won't save them. And here's the big one. Listen to the base. And I don't mean hosting a couple of fake town hall meetings where executives nod politely and then ignore every suggestion. I mean actually engaging with the diehards, the guys and girls who've been riding Harleys for decades, and showing them that their input changes things. Maybe it's in the design. Maybe it's in the pricing. Maybe it's in bringing back certain models. But the point is, if you want loyalty, you have to earn it. And Harley's Trust Bank, with their longtime fans, is running on fumes. Rebuilding that trust isn't optional. Because here's the harsh truth. Harley's identity is hanging by a thread. Losing the emotional bond with riders could be more damaging than any tariff, sales slump, or bad quarter. You can survive a financial hit. You can't survive losing the thing that made you matter in the first place. And right now, a lot of riders are starting to wonder if Harley still stands for what it used to. It's not like they don't have examples to learn from. Look at Ford. They managed to modernize their lineup with EVs and new tech without completely alienating their truck and Mustang loyalists. Or Coca-Cola, a brand that's been around forever but still finds ways to tweak its image while keeping its core identity intact. The lesson? You can evolve without throwing your heritage in the trash. Harley needs to figure that out, and fast. And looming over all of this is Trump's shadow. His public takedown of Harley made this more than just a corporate decision. It turned it into a cultural and political flashpoint. Even people who couldn't care less about motorcycles now have an opinion on Harley, because it got wrapped up in the Trump versus corporate America narrative. That's a level of baggage you can't just quietly shake off. Every move they make now will be seen through that lens, whether they like it or not. So where does that leave them? The next chapter is going to be brutal to write. Harley's walking a razor's edge, adapt enough to survive in a changing market, but not so much that they erase the soul that made them legendary. Get it right, and they could stage one of the biggest comebacks in American business history. Get it wrong, and they'll go from being a global icon to a case study in how to run a century-old brand into irrelevance. The stakes don't get much higher than that. Harley's road ahead is looking rough. Stick around, hit that subscribe button, and let's ride through every twist and turn together.